Welcome to the debate. Today we're examining the mandatory requirement for an exterior emergency electrical disconnect. This is specifically about the National Electrical Code, NEC Rule 230.85, which Virginia adopted into the State Building Code. It impacts major electrical projects across Northern Virginia counties like Fairfax, Loudoun, Prince William, and Arlington. And our central question is this: what's the most significant aspect for making this rule work? Is it the direct safety benefit for first responders, or is it more about the administrative side, the permits, the penalties, that kind of enforcement? I'll be arguing that the primary significance is really that instantaneous safety outcome.
And I come at it from a slightly different angle. While yes, the stated goal is obviously safety, the practical realization, getting it done on the ground, across all these different counties, that success hinges entirely on the administrative enforcement. It's the threat of, financial consequences tied to the permitting process that actually ensures people follow the rule.
Okay, so my position really centers on the problem this rule was built to solve. The significance for me lies in addressing a critical, truly life-threatening safety gap. Before this mandate, first responders showing up to a fire or maybe a flood, they often had to use extremely risky methods, like physically pulling the electrical meter. I mean, that action alone risks severe arc flash injury, property damage, and it introduces these really dangerous time delays while everyone waits for the utility crews. So the rule, now that it's actually written into state law, provides a clearly labeled, immediate means of disconnect right outside the house for 1- and 2-family dwellings. It directly eliminates that immediate hazard and protects lives. That specific risk mitigation, that's the core benefit, and I think the most significant outcome.
That's a fair point about the purpose of the code, but the significance of its implementation, how it actually happens, rests squarely on that enforcement structure. Look, the rule isn't applied universally to every single home overnight. It's triggered by specific administrative actions. For instance, local code in places like Fairfax requires this disconnect for, major electrical work or service upgrades, what a lot of electricians call heavy ups, things that need a county permit.
Right, for permitted work.
Exactly. The mandate is only functionally realized because the contractors must install this outdoor shutoff to pass their mandatory inspection. If the work isn't compliant, the consequence is tangible: a failed inspection, having to redo work, which is costly, and significant project delays. This immediate financial threat, frankly, is what drives widespread installation, maybe more so than an abstract commitment to first responder safety down the line.
But that legal mandate, which exists because of the need to protect life and property, provides the universal foundation. It applies across all those Northern Virginia counties under the 2021 Virginia Uniform Statewide Building Code. The law is there because the risk is everywhere, in any structure.
See, I'm not quite convinced by that because it seems to ignore the actual point of execution. If the mandate's power really came just from its status as a life safety law, why is compliance so explicitly tied to that permit trigger? The system doesn't, for example, prioritize retrofitting existing homes where first responders face the exact same risk. It clearly prioritizes the administrative sign-off on new or major permitted work. That suggests to me, at least, that the administrative necessity passing that inspection is the dominant trigger for actually getting the disconnect installed. And furthermore, we really have to look at the motivation for compliance on the ground. For the contractor and even the homeowner involved in a major project, the immediate tangible benefit is pretty transactional. It's about avoiding costly rework and keeping their project on schedule. I mean, nobody wants to pay fines or deal with stop work orders.
This financial imperative, this sort of pressure, is the engine ensuring that installations actually happen and stay on the right side of county requirements. It ensures the physical disconnect gets installed and is operational out there in the field.
I see why you emphasize the, let's call it, behavioral economics of it all. But that financial driver, isn't it just the lever they chose to achieve the higher purpose of safety? The code was changed precisely because the old ways were inadequate, even dangerous. You focus on the penalty, the fine, but the legislative intent behind that threat is mandatory hazard elimination. The clearly labeled exterior disconnect ensures immediate, effective hazard removal. That's the foundation of the rule, not just checking a box for procedure. Mitigating that serious electrical risk is the most significant factor here, making the rule's protective outcome its real, lasting importance. So ultimately,
I believe the success of adopting NEC 230.85 across Northern Virginia is really measured by its ability to close that critical, long-standing safety gap for our first responders. Making instantaneous electrical hazard mitigation possible is the most significant result of this new code requirement.
And I'd argue, conversely, that the requirement's actual efficacy hinges not just on the state law existing, but really on those stringent, very specific local enforcement mechanisms, the ones that tie the mandatory installation to permitted major electrical projects. That's what ensures legal compliance through necessary administrative and, frankly, financial controls.
And perhaps that's where we see the complex relationship play out. A nationally recognized safety standard, like the NEC, relies entirely on local code adoption and that administrative enforcement to actually deliver on its promise of protecting the public.